Well, hello again, everyone. Today we're looking at Common Core Geometry. This time we're looking at Module 2, and we're looking at Lesson 2, Example 2. That's on page 31 of the revised manual that's revised on September 26, 2014. I went ahead and set up this figure already, so we should be all set with that. And I'm going to go ahead and solve it. It says create a scale drawing of the figure below using the ratio method about center O with a scale factor R3. So the first thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and set up my scale factor, and I'm going to set it up so we can change it. So I'm going to go over to number up here on the menu, and I'm going to use new parameter. And it wants to name it this, but I'm going to call it R because that's what we call these scale factors, and I'm going to give it an initial value right here of 3. I don't need any units right now, so that looks pretty good. So I've set that up. I'm just going to go ahead and I think measure a few distances and draw a few rays. So let's go ahead and I have the ray tool on. I'm going to press and hold until I turn on my ray tool, and I'm going to draw a ray between this center and all the vertices of that figure. So I'm just going to click and hold and pass through each point. So click and hold, make sure it kind of glows when you're on the point so you know you're on the same line. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of them. And that should be set up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and measure these distances because I need to triple them. So I need to know what the measure of AO is, OC, OB. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So to do that, I'm going to grab my arrow selecting tool. I'm going to click out in white space so I make sure nothing's selected. I'm going to go ahead and click on point A and point O. I'm going to go ahead to measure that distance. I'm going to do the same thing for a couple of those. Before I do that though, why don't I actually do the calculation? I'll see what my new length is supposed to be. So I'm going to take my scale factor, multiply it by this distance. And to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and select my R. I'm going to go ahead and select my measure of AO. And I'm going to go over to the number tab again. I'm going to go to calculate this time. And since I have these selected, I should see them in my values. So I want to take R. I want to hit the multiplication, in this case the asterisk sign, and by AO. And I'll go ahead and say OK, and that tells me what that new distance is. So really to mark that off on this line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this distance, select this point that I want the distance from. So I like to hit the select. I like to hold down shift when I select multiple things, but you do not have to. And I'm going to go to construct, and I'm going to construct a circle by center and radius. So I know that all along the circle that's 3 times the original distance. So I'm going to click my point tool, and I'm going to move along, and I'm just going to scroll up here so it's a little easier for me to see. And I'm going to go ahead, and when I get these two, the ray and that circle highlighted, I'm just going to go ahead and click on my point. So now I know that is 3 times the distance, and that should be my A prime point. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that procedure for the others. I'm going to pause the video at this point. Just go ahead and have them up there so you don't have to watch all of them. Okay, welcome back. I was just going to complete the last point. I've already measured OC. I made that my last one since it was on the right. And I've done the calculation R times OC, so I'm just going to go ahead and select the center O. I'm just going to select the distance that I'd like. I go ahead and construct a circle. And I just have to find that intersection between here and the ray. And I'll just go ahead and label that point, since I might not have labeled them with you guys before. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this A tool. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on the point. It wants to label it I. If I double click it, I can call it C prime, which is what I'd like to call it. And I can go ahead and even just move that down around, out of the way a little bit. And just go ahead and get our selection tool back. We'll select nothing for a moment. And you can kind of see where the figure's rather large. Since it is a dynamic figure, I can fix that. I can just kind of shrink this up a little bit, make everything kind of closer together so maybe you can see everything. I also think it'll be easier to see things if I start hiding some of these construction tools and construction things that I've done. So if I just select some of these circles, again, I'm going to click off in white space, make sure I don't have anything selected I don't intend to. I'll just click on each of the circles, get them all selected. Like I say, I like to hold the shift button down while I'm doing my selections. In case I miss it, it doesn't deselect everything. Then I'm going to display menu. I'm going to go ahead and hide those circles. So maybe that'll clear our picture up a little bit. Maybe I'll hide these rays as well, or I can just leave them out for now. Maybe I want to hide the measurements. I could probably do that as well. But A is kind of hidden in amongst these. I think the easiest thing to do here is, maybe I'll shrink this down a little bit too, so that the D is back in our picture a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and construct some segments between these points and go ahead and make the dilated figure. I think the easiest way to do that, I'll just select each of the points, A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. I'm just going to go to construct segments, and it went ahead and constructed this dilated figure of a scale of 3. And that goes ahead and answers the question, but I like to use this software because, like I said before, we were just picking up points and moving them around. What happens if I move the the original D around a little bit? You can kind of see that it kind of stays in proportion, and we have the scale figure there. I can also say, hey, what happens if we don't make the scale factor a 3? Maybe we just make it a 2. How does that do? And because all our calculations are over here calculating, it's just everything's just double, or we can make it a half. So if we take a little time and here you can see the figure inside. So if you take a little time to set it up, you can do a whole bunch of different things with the software dynamically. I'll just set it back. I'm sorry, I'll set it back to the 3 that it was originally. And that's how the figure looked. We can also do some additional things. We can measure angles if we'd like, so we can show that the corresponding angles are equal. Can do that. Why don't I just go ahead and measure, say, angle DAB and DA prime B prime, just for one example, and then we'll wrap it up. So to measure an angle over here in the Sketchpad, I have to select my points with the vertex in the middle. So say I'll select point D first. I'm going to select point A and then B, and I'll just go up to the measure tool, and we can measure angle. And right here it says measure angle DAB, and why don't I compare that to D prime? Holding down the selection tool, A prime, B prime. I'll go to measure that angle, and we should see they're exactly the same. And we could go ahead and repeat the same thing for all the other angles. We could go ahead and move point A around, see how things, the angle will change. However, the A prime all stays equal. All right, so that about wraps this one up. Hopefully helped you out. We'll be back soon with another one.